Hello and welcome to the Human 2 podcast, the podcast that investigates how we stay human and true to ourselves during challenging times in our professional lives, with a particular focus on the accountancy and finance profession. After all, accountants are human too. I'm Hannah, I'm the founder of Accountancy Hub and director of Human 2 Limited. I'm also an inclusion consultant and an ICAW chartered accountant. Today I had the pleasure of talking to Natasha Weller, who is a career coach for mid-career professionals who feel stuck or unclear about the future. Natasha is one of our career coaches on the Accountancy Hub platform, and it was brilliant talking to her all about her career and the work that she does now with her coaching clients. We discussed the importance of workplace culture, how to navigate job hunting, how career fulfilment can come from small shifts, not only dramatic changes, and we also talked about career confusion and setbacks. Natasha emphasised the need for intentional career choices and the value of understanding your own strengths and preferences in the workplace. We also touched on how to position yourself for success, navigate self-promotion with authenticity. I think this is the perfect episode for anyone who is not feeling particularly fulfilled at work or who is looking for a change and doesn't really know where to start. Hi, Natasha, and welcome to the Human 2 podcast.
Hi, Hannah. Very happy and excited to be here.
Lovely having you on. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more. So just to start off, could you introduce yourself to our listeners and give a sort of potted history of your career to date?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So my name's Natasha Weller, and right now I work as a career coach. So I work primarily with people in the early to mid stage of their career who are feeling at career crossroads and not sure where to go. So I help them, support them through that, take it from career confusion to knowing where they want to go and helping them get it. But I say now because I haven't always done that, and I've done quite a lot of different things during my, how many years will it be? I guess getting on to scarily 20-year career so far. So after university, I studied languages, and then it was like, well, what can I do with languages? And there was a company called Bloomberg who were really keen on hiring linguists. So I went to work there at the start of my career. So the first phase was quite a corporate career. And after about 4 years at Bloomberg, I moved into Deloitte, which is obviously, I think, how we kind of connected over the professional services background I have. And I spent under 2 years there. And I mean, we'll probably come on, I'm sure, to career decisions and kind of like looking back a bit more into that. But that for me personally wasn't a kind of environment and a kind of work I was going to thrive in. So then I did move into working at a university at UCL in London, doing career coaching and work with students, with departments there. And that was definitely like, once I got into that role, is like, oh, wow, this is something that actually I'm really good at. I really enjoy. So I spent almost 10 years within higher education, 4 years at UCL, moved over to King's to become deputy head of the whole department. So more of a strategic role, but keeping up some of the student facing, which I really enjoyed. And obviously that took me back about 3 years ago. I decided that I wanted to focus more on the coaching side and set up my own company. So I trained and qualified as a coach during my time in higher education, but I wanted to kind of focus more on the doing the job again and to step away from like being in an employed role within the managerial position within King. So that's me now, and obviously quite a windy path to get there, which is often the way. And but also personally, I think that's what is an advantage, because obviously there's lots of different strengths and skills and experience I've had along the way, which I can bring to my coaching and how I work with my clients now.
And I'm very happy that you're one of our coaches on the Accountancy Hub platform. But what caused you started off in corporate, a very corporate career. As you mentioned, you went to Deloitte, didn't stay there too long, and then moved into higher education and really found that was your space and where you could thrive. So What caused you to leave corporate professional services and move into higher education?
Yeah, I think it was because it was, for the first time, it was more of an intentional decision. So as many people do, they say they fell into what they did first of all. And I mean, it sounds it sounds a little bit ridiculous saying you fell into a corporate job, because obviously I had to had a lot of interviews to get there, but it wasn't really an active decision. It was based around want to work in London, love to keep using my languages, and it kind of really nicely worked out. And I don't think it was necessarily a conscious choice to move into professional services either. It was I want to feel like I'm progressing. And again, it wasn't, I didn't actively say I want to, it was, I really want to go and work there. Whereas I think when I moved there, I found that actually it wasn't a right choice for me. So then I did start to think more intentionally, almost career coaching myself, even though at that stage I probably never heard of career coaching. And I mean, I look back, like literally I would have benefited so much from what I do now, like having that at that kind of mid-20s point, early 20s, I can't remember now. So it was more intentional, really thinking about like what kind of work do I enjoy? I noticed like I was in consulting at Deloitte, not accounting, in tech consulting for finance companies, because obviously working at Bloomberg, a finance technology company, and the project work was fine. I mean, often I felt a bit like, how am I consulting on this? And I literally don't know anything about this. But that aside, I found that I really enjoyed more the things I did around the work. So I did some support around experience hire integration, because I felt, I and other people noticed really good onboarding for graduates. Experience hires like myself, not so much. It was more off you go, find your way. So work I did around that. I supported with some recruitment tasks. There's a few things I was doing. I was like, this is interesting. I'm getting much more satisfaction and enjoyment out of this, and it feels like it's playing more to my strengths. So I think it was just more noticing like where I got my satisfaction from. And I wasn't necessarily again choosing to leave corporate. It was more, I saw the role advertised that I did eventually get, and thought like tick, 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 like, wow, if I could be doing those kind of tasks as a job, like supporting people, working with people, that'd be amazing. Like it would be amazing. And fortunately, it did really pay off. And I think I didn't necessarily know then that I was never, well, maybe I still will, like never going to go back into corporate. It wasn't necessarily choosing public sector over corporate, but it was more focused on the role and the task and what would going to be making up my time, what I'd be working towards, like what the goal was, and thinking more about like kind of, what would bring me to life more. And like really fortunately, it was this time that it was a choice, which obviously I've stayed in that sector, that kind of work now for almost 13 years.
I love how you thought about what you did enjoy in the role, and that it was actually the more kind of side of desk stuff that you got fulfillment out of and were good at, and it brought you joy. And sometimes I guess you can, in your role, decide to just focus on that stuff or lean more into that kind of work. But also, as you said, you can also find another job which is more of that and less of the things that you're not enjoying so much.
Yeah. I mean, with the power of hindsight, and again, like if I had had some kind of career coaching, perhaps maybe a different internal move or moving into a kind of a people HR function role, maybe that could have also, like, I don't feel like there's only one career for people. Like maybe that could have also worked out. But yeah, the choice I made was to actually focus in on a role which fundamentally was about people, connection, support, because they were the bits, like even when I was on client projects, the one I love most, I was working on a project for a car rental company, got to travel all around Europe, interviewing them about the software. So it still was tech focused, but that was my standout, loved it project because it was a great team internally that I was getting to work with, but also I was getting to meet and talk to investigate lots of different people, put that picture together. So I think, for me, I did choose to move away because I don't think, and actually I know I have a lot of clients now who are in consulting still, there's not really a way for you to only focus on those kind of surrounding tasks, internal work as a consultant. Like, of course, you need to be out there on billable projects. So it wouldn't really have been possible, as far as I can see, to stay in consulting and only focus on the type of projects or the type of work that I actually thrive in and I'm good at.
Yeah. And I mean, as you know, I was in consulting at a top firm as well. So we've got a lot in common, but I completely resonate with what you said about there not being that induction support for experienced hires. I mean, I wasn't an experienced hire. I'd come through the grad scheme and I knew all about the company's systems and processes. And I was relatively new to business consulting, actually. So that was new. But I would see experienced hires join the team who had such excellent experience, way more than me, because they were specialists in HR or inclusion or tech or whatever it might be. But there was no induction really at all. And they were just thrown into a massive project at a high level because they'd come in, at a relatively senior, manager or above, and completely sink or swim. Very, very difficult.
Yeah, because it was a completely different, and again, looking back now, I did speak to someone who was doing consulting before, but I hadn't done a massive amount of due diligence or sussing it out. So it was completely, whereas when I was at Bloomberg, it's like an individual contributor type. Well, as in you have know what you're working on, you have your role in the team, I knew, and there was also personally, I felt like amazing induction there. Even if you're experienced, I think hopefully it was better. In consulting, it's that project model, and I just didn't really, this whole having to fight and advocate for yourself to get on the kind of project work that you want to do. I was very oblivious to that, and so that kind of whole getting staffed on a project, first of all, I just didn't really, I felt like I was just completely clueless about how to navigate this, and it got easier. It did. I kind of absorbed and figured things out, but it was a completely different type of culture, completely different type of work. And there was a 2-day induction, but it was a company-wide induction, and probably more about the history. I don't remember. There was about the history, a couple of partners talking. It wasn't really, from what I remember, nothing that supported me to then thrive or even be able to get my head around how to function as a consultant, having never even worked with a consultant when I was at Bloomberg or anything. It was completely alien new environment for me. So yes.
It was something that I actually picked up upon when I was in the team, and I created this ways of working framework, which included just an overview of the entire consulting project process, which is something they'd never mapped out before. And, because every single project is different, and some projects are small, some are large, all the clients are different, but there's similarities with every single project. There's always a scoping and planning part of the process. There's always the delivery of the project. And there's always the, delivering the final report or whatever it might be, and then the aftermath. And I sort of mapped out that entire project process just for experienced hires to know what we actually do. I don't know if people are still using it now. Hopefully they are. But I just thought that was missing, that kind of, this is what is central to every project, no matter what it is.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's obviously been over 10 years since I left. Hopefully things have improved, but and I think the system does still exist of within consulting. I'm not sure if it's the same in other areas of professional services, where you have your your manager isn't it's someone 2 grades above who will be advocating you in your appraisals, and I think I met my person once or twice in that whole 18-20 months I was there. So I just, there wasn't a massive, going from where you had a line manager, there was very little. I think we did that with maybe one thing we introduced was a buddy system, I think, for experienced hires, someone just to kind of ask and have those get that intel from, because it just felt okay, I've got to fend for myself, but I don't have any clue how to navigate this environment. So hopefully things have improved, but I think it's just noticing, I guess, and I know these are things you're super passionate about, culture, and looking back now, I guess that's around inclusivity and culture and making that sense of belonging that we know is so important in work, in education. That probably, because that was missing for me, that probably was what made it feel it wasn't for me a place that I could stay. And I keep saying for me, because for some people that environment is exactly what they want, and they would not thrive somewhere which is more more inclusive. So it is always such a personal choice. But for me, I found that environment wasn't going to be one where I was going to thrive in. So that fueled my decision to move into a different type of work and a different type of sector, I guess.
So picking up on that culture point, you're right. I'm very passionate about workplace culture, and I know you are as well. What do you look for personally when choosing a place of work? And then do you have any advice for anyone who might be job hunting at the moment?
Yeah. So I guess it's interesting because obviously I'm not looking for work anymore, employment, but if I were, it would be like, for me personally, it would be connection. Like I would want to work in somewhere where your department, your team isn't completely in a silo, like you feel part of that bigger picture and there's connection, interaction between different areas, where it is a place where you can, and I think pretty much everywhere has some sense of hierarchy, but I think it needs to be in a way where anyone feels they can share ideas and perspectives, and that it's not only like the decision makers who make the decisions. So I think that's important to me as well, where it actually feels that people can have ownership and can have the autonomy to do things and to take decisions and to do work in their own way. I think that feels important to me. And I think, to me personally, like openness and transparency, I know it's not always possible 100% in every situation, but I think that matters to me as well, where I feel like, there's a sense of openness, willingness, and that everyone, as far as possible, is like working together and excited. And like, that's why I guess I noticed more when I moved into higher education that not everyone, but there is more of a sense of like people genuinely really want to do the best they can for the students and the student experience, despite what we might hear in the media. Like, my experience is the vast majority of people in higher education really care about the student outcomes and really want the best student experience. So I think for me, that felt nice, that actually everything we did and the decisions we took were driven predominantly by student experience, and obviously working in careers, it was student outcomes and their future, and not really, at least not in the careers department, about trying to get as much money as possible or trying to boost. Obviously, there may be other areas of universities who are more bothered about income, but for us, it was more about the experience and the outcomes and doing the best by our students, and all students, not just the ones who may be more likely to, secure particular types of work. Like, we want to do the best for all students. So they're the kind of things that I would look for. And I think, although interestingly, like I say, I'm not looking for employment now, but I do often do freelance work. And I was just wondering, I guess I was thinking to myself, like, would I say no to a particular type of freelance work because of the culture? And I think it's probably less likely, because I guess if I know I'm freelance, it depends what it is. Like, I think there would still be some red flags, but maybe I wouldn't need all of that if I'm a freelancer. Maybe I can because I'm a bit removed and it's not a permanent thing. I think I probably I'd be more kind of flexible on that. But fortunately, the places that I have freelanced at, like, even though they've been quite different with their different ways of working, that communication and that setting me up for success as a freelancer, like giving me the information, the systems I need, be willing to answer questions, that openness and communication. And even so, I felt part of the team as much as possible and didn't feel like an outsider. So I guess actually reflecting, like, even though I wasn't massively looking for it, fortunately, those attributes were still have still been true of anywhere I've done freelance work with so far. So yeah. But again, I think, like we said, it's such a personal thing, isn't it? What people look for in culture. But those would be the things that I personally would look for, ideally. Okay.
And do you have any advice for someone who's job hunting at the moment and, culture's important to them, and maybe they don't really know what culture suits them and allows them to thrive? And so maybe that's the first thing, to work out what that is. But what advice would you have for someone job hunting at the moment?
I think that is, like you say, the first thing. Like, it's actually a lot of the work I do with my clients, like, first of all, will be looking kind of at their career or life so far, and through that, so doing that process and thinking, like, where have I thrived? What are my values? What motivates me? And just building up that picture yourself first, because you can read a culture and read a values list or a company statement and think like, oh yeah, that sounds, we're a dynamic, innovative company, be like, oh yeah, that sounds so me, that sounds so cool. You might think it would be so good, but then actually, if you spend some time first and actually you're someone, oh no, I think I value more having space to think and not having to be pushed into quick innovation all the time, for example. So I think firstly, really looking at yourself, and I do on my website, I have a guide, I think five ways to kickstart your career shift. And the first step is all about, so you can go onto my website and download that. The first step is all about that looking inwards and getting clearer by yourself. And then once you have a sense of that, it's like, how can you test and explore if where you're thinking of working has that? And I do think it can be very hard. You can get a sense of the culture from like a website, but I think it is really good if you can take that next step and try and find out a bit more. So I guess the next step would be maybe actually, are there things you can watch, like YouTube, or what kind of things are they posting about, or what's said about them on Glassdoor, like maybe still online. But then the best thing you can do if you can is to speak to people. And I would say speak to a range of people, because whilst, say, for example, with me, I spoke to a technology consultant in Deloitte and he was really generous with his time and he shared his experience. But obviously I can see now that we're quite different people. Everyone's so different. So what he valued and was looking for was different. So I think speak to a range of people and also get clear on those questions yourself. It's not so much saying what's the culture, so you can ask that, but maybe other questions such as like picking up on the things that matter to you. So say, for example, for me, I say like, how much do you interact with other teams? How are decisions made? Do people, like, do you feel you can have autonomy over how you approach your work? Like maybe just you ask questions linked to what matters to you to try and build up that picture. It's a shame, obviously, like how amazing would it be if you could go in for a day shadowing, or there's not, obviously, like still there's not that much. There are things I think now, like so many people will do like a day in the life, like on Instagram. I don't personally have TikTok, but I'm sure like on there as well. So maybe you can start to get a sense of that by watching stuff. But I think normally it's like, can you try and speak to people and just to get a sense of that culture and just pick up on like, okay, does that align with the real things I really need? Anything I'm willing to maybe compromise slightly on? Like, are there any major red flags? Like actually their performance is measured on this, or the people who tend to be successful in their company are like this. And actually that really fundamentally goes against how I operate, or that reminds me too much of when I worked at this place and I actually don't want to be back in that situation. You can often, obviously you have to get to that stage, but you can often pick up on those kind of things at interviews as well. So you can still ask questions at interviews and get a sense of things at interviews. I've had quite a few clients who've got to that stage and things that have happened at interview have been either positively or more negatively, like made them think, actually, I don't think I want to make a good choice this time. And things I picked up on an interview made me feel like maybe it's not, the right kind of place. So there's a few things you can do to check the culture. And it's probably the more proactive you can be. There are things you can do reading and online, but if you can take that next proactive step and try and speak with people, I think that's the best thing, really.
I don't know if you listened to the episode with Dr. Jim Rogers, but when he was a teacher and he was applying to work at school, he actually stood in the playground speaking to teachers and parents to understand what the culture was like, which is, it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah. I had, I think I'd heard, like I said, that would maybe hang out outside the offices or just kind of see people going in and out. But I guess, it's that kind of thing if you can, or hear what they're talking about. Because you probably could actually. I think if you probably were sat in a bar in Canary Wharf, you probably would be able to notice by lanyards and stuff like, oh, that's what the like JP Morgan people are talking about. I guess you could. But the more you can do about like those kind of things, the better if you can try and make the time for them.
So as a career coach, and I'm being a bit cheeky here, but I want to know, what do people commonly come to you about? Are there lots of themes that recur quite often with your coaching clients?
I was wondering what you're going to ask, and I'm like, oh no, that's not cheeky at all. Like, I think and that's the thing. I think it's actually important to share, because so many people, when they first talk to me, will be like, I think I'm the only one who feels like this. Is this really weird? Is this normal? And it really is. So I do notice everyone's unique and there are personal things, but there are a lot of things I would say come up. So if I think predominantly, I say at the moment, the last kind of year or two, like setbacks, people will often come to me after some kind of setback. So that could be redundancy and the impact it's had on them, or recurrent redundancies and how that's impacting them, like mindset. It can be like maybe like situations at work where they are really unhappy, like because of the way they've been treated or a certain situation that's happened. So often it can be some kind of setback, and they want to move forward and like take back control and feel that they have ownership of their career and the direction they're going again, and to rebuild up that self-esteem. So that'd be one thing. Secondly, a common thing is like confusion, like I don't know where I want to go from here. Like, do I want to stay in the line of work I'm in, or actually do I want to shift slightly, shift in a big way? So it's that confusion and just not feeling like they are able to work through like where they want to go and how, and then the how to do it. I think that's a big thing, especially if people have worked in the same company or the same role for a number of years. They like so often feel like they don't know how to apply for jobs. They don't know how to look for a job anymore. And then like another thing would be the sunk cost fallacy. So a number of my clients will have worked in a particular area, potentially will have studied that. So say an engineer will have studied engineering, or an architect will have studied architecture for a number of years and qualified, or a number of careers where you're invested for quite a while. And then you feel like, oh, I'm in too deep now to get out. I don't want to be doing this. So the sunk cost fallacy is that you've sunk so much into this, like money, time, energy, that you can't get out now. You're in too deep, but you can. And it's not always about leaving something completely. Like maybe there is a sideways step or a stepping stone role which enables you to not feel like you're giving up everything and that you've wasted anything, and you're moving on from it. So yeah, so I think the career confusion, dealing with setbacks, having that confidence to move on from something after they feel they've invested a lot of time in it would be the common things. And then a lot around like, how do I job search in this market? How do I effectively like put myself out there, market myself? So things around CV, but also more what are they saying and how they're approaching talking about themselves would be a lot of the common things. And then, yeah, feeling that they want to be able to have confidence and create the next step that works for them, because so often all of us, myself included, will fall into something or carry on in something, and then they come to a point like, no, I do want to make a change, but I want to make sure that it's the right one, and they're setting themselves up for success in the next chapter, and it's that they're really being intentional about things now. So that's, yeah, they would typically be the kind of challenges that a lot of my clients would come to me with when we first start working together.
I mean, now you say those three things, it completely makes sense. And I think we're all having careers where we move around and we have those squiggly careers, as it's called. And, you know, sometimes you just come to the end of one road and you want to either go laterally or stay in the same company, do something slightly different, or make a complete change. And I guess it depends what stage you are in your life as well, and whether you're wanting to have children or you've just had children, and what was important to you before might not be so important now. And so many things can happen, can't they, where actually you need to look at your career, which is most of your life, you know, more than your actual personal life. You spend more time at work than you do at home. Yeah, exactly.
And I think it is having like making shifts, and like I love that whole squiggly career concept, and the work, all the work that they do is more normalized, and I just think that's so amazing to see, because so many people stay in something because they think they have to or should, or that they don't necessarily see how they can move on from it. But like, fortunately, I get to see so many examples of people who I do, but also I think there's lots more examples out there and you can see. And I would actually say, and it almost surprised me a bit, I think I thought, if I'm a career coach, I'm mainly going to be helping people make massive, dramatic changes. Like, and actually a lot of the time it's not. It can be. Like I have a number of clients who have made a big change, but often it can be a change to either how they're working, where they're working, a slightly different area of their industry, a slightly different type of company, that culture, different type of role actually gives them what they're looking for. And they have that clarity and they have that sense of direction, ownership over their career again. So it's not all about having to, you know, set up a yoga studio or move into doing like being an artist. It really isn't. You don't have to only do those kind of things to feel fulfillment, and there's plenty of people who've moved within the corporate world and they still are like feeling so much better, and they're and they're thriving doing what they're doing, or who have actually, I've got one client who is actually very staying put where she is, but now she's working on the kind of projects and she's doing the kind of things that she feels really fulfilled. And she also feels she knows where she's going next when the time is right. She's taking action, which sets her up better towards that. But actually her career clarity and her, like, the good outcome for her was stay where I am, but shift the kind of things I'm doing and just feel more like I'm more being more intentional about how I'm developing and how I'm like, the kind of things I'm being involved in. So it doesn't always have to be a massive change to get you that fulfillment and that career happiness that I think obviously we all want, right?
Many of our listeners will be accountancy trainees who are approaching the end of their studies, or they might even be qualified accountants, people in professional services who are just looking for their next move, whether that's internally or externally. How can you position yourself effectively when you've made that decision that you want to change something to do with your career?
Yeah. So in terms of like positioning yourself, like to set yourself up for success when you are ready to do that. Yeah. So there's a blog that I recently wrote for you to share on your accounting, which a lot of that I think would be covered in that if people want to take a read through that. And I think it's so good. Like, I just love what you're doing so much, Hannah, because I think you're helping people with where they're at now in their studies, but also like helping them like look ahead and think about like the bigger picture. So I would say, like, firstly, it's always like that taking stock yourself and really thinking about what is a good career choice for you. Like, never mind if actually most of your cohort are so excited about moving into industry and that's what they want. Like, maybe that isn't the thing for you, or that they're really excited to try and progress up the ranks, and maybe that isn't the thing for you. So really thinking yourself first, noticing where you get your energy from, what the your achievements, and because we'll come to the end of every year and it's like, oh yeah, praise, or I can't remember what I did, or I can't remember this. Like, trying to take stock of and be more reflective about the work you do. I think seeing the bigger picture, and it's so easy when we're stuck in work, like, to only think about our type of work or our company, but really trying to like build up that broader industry awareness, or just staying curious about what else is happening. Like, how can you be reading or absorbing or learning, like just staying curious and learning, because you may get inspired by hearing someone who works at a particular company talk about a type of work they're doing. So I think staying curious, not only because so many of my clients will be like, I think I've been so focused on my company for the last decade and this, and I don't really understand or have that awareness anymore of the outside landscape. So I think that is really good. Thinking about like your own network, and I know that word is still so like brings out fear in everyone, but I think it's just, who are you talking to and how can you do it in a way that works for you? So are there communities you can join which are focused on this kind of work you do, focused on a particular demographic you have? Like, are there communities where you feel like you'd like to join, and it's not, I'm joining this to get a new job, it's joining this to every 6 weeks I get to meet up with a group of people and we discuss, or I attend a webinar and we discuss like the key trends in this or the challenges of this. Is there any mentoring scheme you can be part of? Are there just ways for you to be talking and building your network? Because fundamentally, opportunities are always connected to people. Like, if you're looking at a job advert, someone's written that, or maybe ChatGPT has, but someone's written it, someone's posted it, someone's going to be choosing the person for that job. So as much as you can, like, just try to be connecting with people, because when the time comes, like, who are the people that who can like advocate for you, or who could suggest your name, or who know about you. So just I think it's like not sitting in a siloed way for like during that period, like making sure you are building up that bigger picture, trying to understand what different jobs are, what's happening externally, thinking about your own development. I know a lot of your listeners will be like so stuck into exams and exam season. Understandably, that's their focus, but are there other things you want to develop? Like, do you want to get better at giving presentations? Do you want to spend some time listening to or doing a free online course about the application of AI in business? Just, are there things you can do which help you develop skills or knowledge slightly outside of your current role? So you feel you're developing and moving forward, and that you have that connection, and then a better sense of how what you do could be of value could be translated, could be transferable outside, because so many clients will come to me and say like, I don't see how what I've done is transferable. Like, you know, we hear so much about transferable skills. I don't understand that. But once they start exploring it and talking, and once we start looking at their skills and strengths, it's like, like I'll help to fill in the gaps of all that. It actually would be really valuable in this, and that would be really valuable because so the more you can do that yourself, so you don't feel like I'm only an accountant, all I can do is work in that way. Like, no, there'll be so much of what you do which actually could be really valuable knowledge or an attribute or a kind of skill that would be really valuable elsewhere. So yeah, just trying to put yourself in position so you recognize that as you go along, so it doesn't feel like, okay, I want to leave in a month, but I've got no idea like where on earth I could go or what I really want next.
Really interesting. And I mean, the more that I get through my career, I just think every job just has the same skills pretty much. I don't know if that's like a mad thing to say, but like,
what are you going to say they are? Like
communication? Yeah, like every single job needs that. I mean, being able to present information back to someone in an understandable way, I feel like that's every job. Do you know what I mean? So we have all these specialisms and all these professions, but actually, is it just all the same?
I think there's so much where I think knowledge, like specific knowledge or maybe some technical skills, like obviously I would never know how to do Java programming unless I learnt it. But there are so many things.
Right? Like, you can learn it.
Yeah, exactly. I could. Sometimes I think like, oh, maybe not. I'm never going to be a programmer, but like maybe I should, because maybe it would just show me that I could try and pick it up. You can. And actually, I was at an event last week and I met a woman who had been working in advertising, and then she did that. She did courses, and she is now a developer, and she's like, she does programming, and she's and that's like so you did, and she's like obviously doing the same kind of job as people who've studied computer science. So it is possible. And whilst I say career changes don't have to be like that, they also can be like that, and you can pivot later in life and you can learn new skills. But a lot of those fundamental ways of working you'll have, and like often if I'm working with people who are making a slightly later change or who are PhD students, or it's like you may be going in, like say particularly PhDs, you may be going in with the graduate pool. There may not be a PhD program, but you're likely to progress, as it were, and you're likely to get on with your work so much more easily and quicker because you have that life experience. So like often if I'm working with PhD students, I'll say like, yes, you'll go in the graduate track, but you are more likely to get promoted quicker and just get into your work and understand it quicker because you have that life experience. I think that's the truth. Like if you've built up those skills and you've done them in a different environment, it's really an asset to take elsewhere. And if you can think about things differently, you have a different perspective. But I think there still is probably, and I'm just going off on a bit of a tangent, like I think there are some industries and some people who are really open to consider people who are career changing. I think the reality is there are, and also in today's market, there are some people who are like, no, I need someone who literally has worked in X type of agency or someone who's worked in this type of product before. So I think it's not like we can talk about actually there's a really strong base for a lot of people to make a change and pivot, but we have to recognize that it's not always what the employer necessarily wants, and that is a harder case sometimes to for that person to like market themselves and get themselves hired into that type of role if it is like a completely different shift.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And yeah, I was a career changer into accountancy and professional services, and I wish there had been like a career changer program, whereas I just joined the graduate program slightly older, which was absolutely fine, and I wasn't too old, whether there is a too old, but actually there could have been a career changer program full of people that have had a different career but have all those transferable skills, are willing to reskill, and they want to do this professional qualification. Mm-hmm. And we're all sort of in the same boat, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And there are some of those, but they're kind of still few and far between, right? Or you see like military leaver programs, and there are schemes, but yeah, it'd be great. Or career returners, if people have chosen to take a time out from work for whatever reason. And there are some, but it'd be amazing, like if that was more prevalent, so people felt that actually, yeah, sure, it's completely fine if I want to retrain as this, is because I'm going to have my community and there will be a lot of support along the way, like normalizing it more, I guess.
Yeah. Right, I'm going to throw this curveball at you. I've given you no time to prepare at all.
Right.
Natasha, what makes you human?
Everything. But I would say probably that I, as far as possible, and everyone's human, I try my best to not try my best naturally. I don't think I put up a facade, and I will share and be open about like what I find hard, the realities, and connect with people human to human. Like I think authenticity like feels really important to me, and as far as possible, I really like am authentic. I say as far as possible, so I'm sure there's times where I'm probably like, oh, you fine? Okay, yeah, I'm fine. But I do think there is benefit from like sharing, being open, because if you're open, people are more likely to be open with you, and then they can talk. And so I think it's that human. Yeah, I think I would say I'm able to connect with people like in a really authentic way, so that they feel willing to share and that I'm willing to share as well. And I think, yeah, and not that, especially in this like world, we have like the glossiness of say Instagram and everything's picture perfect. And again, I still have never gone to TikTok. So I think you can have that, but actually the reality, like to connect with people human to human and their whole life and the bigger picture, not just like the Instagram reel they post or that, or the beautiful picture they have, which is like them at their best. So I think it would be that I think I really try and to connect with people in that way, and to like be or open myself in that way, which makes it harder because to like, now I'm a self-employed person, I have to market, but like sometimes I'm a bit of conflict, but you know, do I need to do the marketing in a glossy way because that's what's gonna like, that's what everyone does.
I know what you're saying though, because I also would consider myself pretty authentic. That's just the way I am. I try not to hide anything too much, but I think authentic leadership is very difficult. You know, if you're being a leader and you feel like you need to know all the answers, I don't think a leader does need to know all the answers, but you know, I think leaders can be put under pressure to be a certain way rather than being their authentic selves. I'm not saying I'm a leader, I'm just saying that's what I've seen. But to what you were saying about social media and self-marketing, you know, I'm doing a lot of self-promotion with Accountancy Hub, and yeah, I am in conflict. How natural and human do I be? Because yes, I am human, and also the business is sort of up and down, and being a business owner is really difficult. But also, if I post something really authentic on LinkedIn, all of the potential clients that I want to invest in me will see it, and I'm just not sure that's appropriate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah, I completely know what you mean. Yeah, and I think that's the hard thing, because we are essentially like, when you're self-employed, you're marketing yourself, but that kind of doesn't mean that it's marketing, right? I mean, neither of us kind of came from marketing background, but here we are trying to market our own businesses. But as far as I can, like, I'm aware, like you market things, it has to be intentional. You have to be like strategic about it. So yeah, and I think that is where I find the conflict. It's like, well, I really pride myself on being authentic, but then it's like that, well, I don't know if I am always online sharing, and that's probably why I still haven't really got that much into Instagram marketing because I feel like, I don't know, maybe on LinkedIn I'm more authentic, and I feel like on Instagram it would have to be like, oh, I'll go for a blow dry before I like can post anything kind of thing, which isn't me. So that is what makes me human. But then I think there is still, like, as we move into this, now we're in this digital age and the marketing and online marketing, it's like there is a slight conflict between, with me for that. And that's something I still find hard self-employed.
I think what I've decided is that, you know, at the moment, Accountancy Hub isn't really separable. Is that the word? I can't separate Accountancy Hub from me. So really it is all about me and my personal brand at the moment. If the company gets bigger, then it won't be. And I won't post the same things because it won't be about me and who I am. It'll be about the whole company and what we're doing. Whereas at the moment, I'm just sort of like, people have got to come along with me on this mission and on this journey. Those that stick around, brilliant.
Yeah. But and that's what's effective, because like when you, like we spoke for the first time last year, like I definitely bought into Accountancy Hub because of you and because of like your story. So it works, right? So I think that authenticity does work, and like why you're doing it, this, and it's on you. And I think if I think myself, like so much of my work comes from referrals, so that is like a really nice endorsement that it's because of me, like because of like me and how I am and how I work. So yeah, I think probably for now, and I guess maybe my could change as well, but yours probably has more potential to shift, right? Because it's a platform that maybe in the future you can separate more from you if you want to. But yeah, I guess for now I am selling kind of me and my services, like, and it is, it's not a downloadable thing, or I don't have like subcontractors that work for me or anything. Yeah, who knows? Talk to me again in a decade, maybe.
We'll have you back on the podcast sooner than that.
Yeah.
So just to finish off, what advice would you give your younger self?
Yeah, so much about so many different aspects of life. But if I think about the work, I think that personally, you go through school, and I like was very good at working hard and to get my good grades and very outcome, like, it's very much like, what's in front of you. And so I think when I got into work, I almost didn't know the rules of the game in terms of like, I wish now I had, one, probably got kind of career coaching, but I never would have known what that was then, but spoken up more. Not, I think probably I was used to work hard and your hard work will speak for itself. And I think when you're in work, it's like, but also what else should you be doing? How is your work seen? The visible, like, how is your work visible? How are you, like speaking up in meetings? How are you putting forward ideas? Like, how are you engaged? And I think probably until I worked in higher education, actually, I think I was much more still, it was like work hard to do well. But it's like, no, when you're in the working world, it's not an exam. You can't like study and work hard for it. It's like work hard plus all those other things which help you do really well in a workplace. And I don't think I was aware of that, like kind of how to do well in work in a corporate or just, in a work environment, and how it's a shift in kind of how you're used to go to the class, take the exam, write the essay, like it's completely different, right? So
yeah, totally. And I think I've learned that as well in my career. It honestly isn't about working the hardest at all. You can work as hard as you like, but it won't necessarily get you that promotion if people don't know what you're doing and you're not coming across in the right way in front of the right people, as sad as that is. But there is strategy to it.
Yeah. And actually, as much as like personally for me, working at Deloitte wasn't great, it was the first time actually, I think, in because you got the feedback from like your project managers, and actually one project manager I had who she wasn't much, she was maybe the grade above me, I think, if I think about it, but she actually was really good at giving that kind of feedback and thinking about visibility, and why don't you email me every Friday what you focused on that week? Because I would just assume that they would like, they probably know what I'm working on. So she actually did make me think more about that visibility. And I think that because whilst it wasn't right for me, there was a lot I took away from that 20 months, like resilience and a lot of those kind of visibility skills, which I think I did use for sure. Like once I got into the career stage I've stuck with. So I think I didn't learn it. I didn't really, those kind of, it's not like I good into personal skills, I think, but it's more those managing upwards. That's the term, isn't it? Managing upwards and being intentional about visibility and career and that kind of thing. I don't think I knew how to do that, like in my first kind of the first part of my 20s.
Do you think we should be taught that when we enter the working world?
So is it? So when I was at King's, we obviously this is just a small example, but we designed and we were running a workshop. I can't think the title of it, but it was to support students like to be able to thrive in work and talking about this kind of things. And like basically pretty much no one came. So yes, I think there just wasn't the interest in it. They were much more concerned with like the getting in and not the getting on and the kind of then how to do we had like, so I've forgotten the name of the workshop, but there wasn't the interest then. And yes, it could be spoken about more in schools and in universities and colleges, like before people leave into the workforce. But it's just whether that's because sometimes you have to see things in context, right? So I wonder if maybe it would be better placed in companies. And actually, there was someone I was coaching, I think it was earlier this year or end of last year, who was starting her graduate job, and she wanted to have coaching around how to thrive in it and how to navigate working when she hadn't worked in it was a public sector corporate. I won't give the name. I think it was like a bit of a hybrid between the two, and how to navigate that and how to thrive and how to so I think, yes, it would be good, but I think the companies would probably love it that people came workplace ready, but I don't think the people want to learn it whilst they're still in school or university. I think they probably are more ready and to learn it and absorb it and to put it into context once they start working, so they have the real examples and they can see and learn by doing and seeing it. So yes, in short, but I think it's probably going to happen more once people start working.
I think it's something that Accountancy Hub can do, because we put on webinars around professional skills, and maybe it's even something we can do together, Natasha, for people that are training in those first few years.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Great idea. Let's do it.
Anyway, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've really enjoyed it. Enjoyed getting to know you more.
Oh no, thank you for having me. I've loved it. And such a big fan of what you do, and I can't wait to see your success grow and grow.
Thank you very much.